Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is David Ephraim. I'm COO and CFO of Avulux Migraine Light Sensitivity Lenses. And today I have Alicia Wolf, also known as the Dizzy Cook, here with me. Alicia, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alicia, and thank you so much for having me here today. I am the Dizzy Cook, and I have had vestibular migraine for almost 9 years now. I've gone from chronic to remission to episodic, and I have experienced all types of dizziness and vertigo and all the symptoms that come with those migraine attacks and all the treatments that I've tried to get to a better place as well. I have two cookbooks, The Dizzy Cook and The Mediterranean Migraine Diet with my neurologist, Dr. Shinbei, and dizzycook.com, which helps people with vestibular migraine resources, natural treatments, and recipes.
It's great, Alicia, and I'm so happy to have you. So today we're going to be talking about Alicia's migraine journey, migraine light sensitivity specifically, Avulux migraine light sensitivity glasses, how they came about, why they even exist, and where we stand today and how they've been helping people like Alicia and the over 15,000 customers that are wearing Avulux today. Know that we also have over 700 eye care providers globally selling Avulux glasses, and you can also get them at avulux.com. I will also say we'll have a Q&A at the end of this conversation, so you can just leave comments on social and we'll answer some of those questions at the end. So please feel free to start adding those comments in whenever it makes sense to you. So tell me, Alicia, how does light sensitivity and migraine affect you? What are your symptoms like, and how do they make you feel?
So, back when I was first diagnosed, I was extremely light sensitive. It was actually one of my first symptoms, and a lot of doctors missed that it was actually migraine for me, even though it's one of the diagnostic criteria for vestibular migraine. But I would go into restaurants and I would just feel like everything was closing in on me. Like the sound was too loud, the lights were too bright, and I just wanted to close my eyes and hold my head in my hands. Grocery stores were incredibly debilitating for me, which is hard as someone who loves to cook. And so anytime I went to the grocery store, I'd wear my sunglasses and a big hat, and I would try to make it as quick of a trip as possible. This was before grocery delivery and all those great things that are out now. But it just felt like everything was so overwhelming to me. Like I had to wear my sunglasses, otherwise I couldn't get through my day. And even on screen, I couldn't scroll for a long time without feeling sick or nausea. And it would also increase my dizziness. And a lot of my time was actually spent on screens, going from my job in design to working on a website like the Dizzy Cook. Being in all of these support groups, everything is done online. And so I found myself being incredibly sensitive to all these things that were causing um, extra symptoms for me and not really understanding how to manage it.
Yeah, we get a lot of people coming to us asking questions about sunglasses. Like you said, we have the typical archetypal person wearing sunglasses and a hat almost everywhere they go, and sometimes even indoors. We have certain customers that don't leave the house and they're wearing sunglasses inside and they can't go outside even with those sunglasses. And that's typically the type of person that we found gravitate towards something like Avulux. But the reality is wearing those dark sunglasses can actually make things worse. So if you're wearing a dark sunglass and it's cutting out about 80-90% of all light, what you're finding is that you're chronically dark adapting your eyes. And that means that your eyes are expecting they need to widen to allow more light in. And so in this darkened environment, your pupils are getting bigger. And when you finally take those glasses off, you're even more light sensitive than you were before. So this chronic dark adaptation can definitely worsen light sensitivity, and transitioning from something like sunglasses to Avulux. Avulux cuts out less light on average across the spectrum, but it cuts out more light than a dark sunglass where it matters most, and that's in the blue, amber, and red range. So Avulux cutting out filtering up to 97% of blue, amber, and red light, while selectively allowing over 70% of that soothing green light through, means that you can live your life without living in this very darkened environment or in a completely distorted worldview, whether it's a deeply dark lens or a deeply dark sunglass. So
Yeah, you
Avulux
find
was,
yourself sort of reaching for all these different ways to make it
yeah,
better or to decrease light sensitivity. And you're reaching for all the wrong things that can help increase it over time.
yeah. I mean, it feels good to put the sunglasses on at first, but little do some people know that it could be leading them down the path of needing to taper off of those glasses. But that's pretty much why Avulux glasses were thought up in the first place. There was new research. It was the early 2010s. One of our neuro-ophthalmologists and an optical engineer out of the University of Utah got together and said, well, this research is pointing to specific pathways through which people living with migraine are experiencing light-triggered pain. And so this light-triggered pain pathway happened through specifically a cell called melanopsin. That's an IPRGC at the back of the eye, at the retina. An IPRGC is an intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cell. Intrinsically photosensitive, meaning that it's triggered by light. So this exposure to a very, let's call it 480 nanometer blue-green light, so that's that teal range, is what triggers that cell and triggers those pain signals. And so most blue light glasses on the market, the clear ones or the yellow ones, are only cutting up until 450 nanometer range. And so they're also not cutting out enough light. And so we set out on the path to design an Avulux lens that aligned deeply with the science. Additional science in 2016 came out to say that green light was the only soothing light during a migraine attack. All other light, including blue, amber, and red, or even white light, which encompasses all wavelengths, were increasing migraine headache intensity. So Avulux glasses are selectively cutting out blue, amber, and red light while selectively allowing through that green light. So from 2011 to 2017, we finally evolved the lens to a point where we ran our independent, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial, and we actually found clinical and statistical significance in helping people living with migraine through those glasses. So for the first time, a pair of lenses were made specifically for people living with migraine light sensitivity. It wasn't just a Band-Aid solution like a dark sunglass. It was something specifically for those light and pain pathways to help people go on about their days. And so now that you know kind of why these were created and how they were created, I'm sure, Alicia, you can speak to how Avulux glasses are helping you get back to activities that you love, whether it's cooking, whether it's all the social media marketing that you're doing.
Yes, actually. So I was the one who tried all those glasses. I remember when I was first diagnosed, my neurologist had me, he said, oh, well, you could try blue light blockers or FL41. And so I went through all of these different glasses trying to improve my light sensitivity symptoms. But it really wasn't until I found Avulux where I felt like, oh, I can definitely notice the difference in relief that I'm having and the relief that happens all day long. So basically how I'm wearing my Avulux now, or how they've helped me throughout the process, is I spend a lot of time on my computer. Even though everyone thinks I'm usually cooking and in the kitchen, I actually spend a lot of time answering emails, answering messages on social media. I spend a lot of time editing photos and developing recipes and writing them out. And so all of that time that's spent on the computer, I mean, that's almost 7 to 8 hours a day that I am on screens. And it is really a lot for my eyes as someone who's sensitive with migraine and who is recovering and kind of watching their amount of triggers that they pull in to try to manage that. And so even when I go to things like the grocery store now or Costco, I have to be mindful to be preventative in how I'm wearing my glasses. So wearing them before my symptoms start to happen, wearing them before I start to get on the computer and answer those emails through the day to try to manage any increase in symptoms before that even happens. So wearing them very
Correct.
much preventatively.
That is exactly how the glasses should be worn. You have to be very mindful of exposing yourself to light and potentially increasing or filling up that glass for that migraine threshold theory. So someone living with migraine is overly light sensitive, or they're sensitive to their environment in general, whether it's light, sound, smell sensitivity, and they can feel a host of symptoms before, during, and after a migraine attack. So the difficulty with light is that it's everywhere, and it's not just screen light that is an issue. It's artificial lighting, it's even natural lighting, and allowing yourself to go day to day through light, especially exposing yourself to light in these different scenarios without using something like Avulux glasses would mean that light is just constantly adding to that migraine attack threshold, and you might experience a migraine attack. So Avulux definitely is a symptom management tool. It's also getting ahead of light sensitivity. So typically for people living with constant light sensitivity, it's important that the glasses are worn before you feel the symptoms of a migraine attack or the symptoms of your eyes being in some sort of pain, or they're aching or they're strained. So you should wear them ahead of time. Now,
and one of the ways that kind of creatively helped me is I like to put them on before bed. So I noticed that a lot of times I was struggling with sleep throughout the night and waking up a lot or having trouble falling asleep. And so this, I think, happens as you get a little bit older. And so one of the things that I tried was like trying to block out, blue light before I go to bed, but I have 2 young toddlers, so it's difficult for me to find that me time to myself to watch shows or just really have time to myself. And so that always usually happens at the end of the night. So I started wearing my Avulux lenses at the end of the night before I go to bed to try to help bring down and block some of that blue light and help me sleep better. And it's been incredibly beneficial for me, not even from like a migraine standpoint, but just from a sleep standpoint too.
Sure. And that makes sense because Avulux is not just a blue blocker, and we can talk about how it's different than a typical blue blocker, but it is cutting out up to 90% in that melanopsin triggering range. And melanopsin is an IPRGC at the back of the eye that also regulates the release of melatonin. So it makes sense that it's helpful to wear it during, working on the screen at night or before bed. So yes, we don't usually market it for that, but it makes sense if you look at the science. So typically people are buying blue light glasses, and they even ask us, they say, should I, through my eye care provider, get a blue light coating on the Avulux lens? And our response is typically, you don't need it. Avulux is already cutting out up to 90% of that blue light. You don't have to put any other blue coating on this lens. That brings me to kind of compare it now, because the common question that we get is, well, there's sunglasses, there's FL41, and there are blue light glasses. Why should I trust that Avulux is the right one? Well, I kind of touched on that before. Up until 2011 and all this new light and migraine research came out, it was essentially people looking for lenses to cut out these lights that they thought that were probably worsening and triggering their attacks. But the reality is those exact and specific pathways, and not in absolute terms, but those pathways through which pain was being triggered that were identified in the last 10 years, left us a roadmap essentially. And so the Avulux lens, cutting out this blue, amber, and red light, is really the only lens on the market that's doing that. And when we say it doesn't distort color perception, what we actually mean is if you were to buy a blue light blocker that blocked 90 to 100% of blue light, you'd typically find that that lens was extremely dark red or dark orange, or maybe even a very dark green lens if it was only allowing green light through. But you'd be living in a unicolored universe at that point. So it's a very big impact to quality of life, especially for someone who's wanting to watch a movie or who's doing graphic design work or editing photos or anything of that nature. So if you have to pull your glasses down every few minutes, it's kind of defeating the purpose of wearing those glasses in the first place. With Avulux, the lens is very specific and it's absorbing light as it passes through. So it's not the color of the glasses that actually filter the light. And so we're able to filter up to 97% of blue, amber, and red light while allowing that green light through without distorting color perception as a comparable synthetically tinted lens would. And I know it's maybe difficult to understand, but if you've worn a very dark or very dark red lens or a lens that's claiming to cut 100% of blue light, you would know what I mean here.
Yes, actually, we've discussed this before, but it did take me a few days after I got my Avulux lenses to adjust to the frames. And what I had noticed through discussing that with you guys is wearing these glasses before, it can take a little bit of an adjustment period because your eyes have adjusted to using darker glasses too.
Yeah. Specifically, it's the chronic dark adaptation. If you're used to the very dark glass and you're used to having a much lower amount of light going into your eyes, it might take you a few weeks to adapt because, like I said, Avulux cuts out 40 to 50% on average versus a much darker lens. But what matters most is that if you look at the spectral curve, and you can find that on Avulux.com, the light that we're cutting is typically more of the harmful light than a sunglass and even a dark sunglass. And that's also a common question. If Avulux glasses cut out so much of this light, why aren't they darker than a sunglass lens? And it's because it's a selective filter. So all the Avulux lenses that are sold today through any provider or online are manufactured by us in the US. And so these lenses are made very consistently. If you were to go online searching migraine glasses and you'd find a whole host of generic lenses, what's typically happening there is you don't really know what filtration you're getting with that lens. Whereas with Avulux, any lens that makes it off our manufacturing line is being tested for filtration. And that filtration is held to a very tight tolerance. So you can expect that the lens that you bought 7 years ago from us is going to be the same filtration if you buy that lens again today. Whether you buy a prescription Avulux lens or a non-prescription one, it's going to be the same filtration. So we've made it so that, because what people are buying with Avulux is you're buying a specific filtration.
And you want to know, if you're investing this much money into this kind of treatment, you really want to know that it's something that will last for a long time and you'll be able to use it, and that it's being reliable to what you're claiming online. And so knowing that you guys do all this testing on them to make them reliable compared to other brands is really reassuring for me as a patient who is investing a lot of this money into a light sensitivity treatment.
Yeah, they're clinically proven for that reason. They're also patented, and patented, it means that this is the lens. We're going to keep this lens. This is what's going to be sold as the Avulux migraine light sensitivity lens, and it's here to stay essentially. Do you have any other questions for me, Alicia?
I would love for you to touch a little bit more on green light, that the soothing green light, and how the lenses allow that in, because that's something that's really unique to Avulux.
Sure. So typically, well, let's just start at where the green light conversation popped up. It's through that Harvard study in 2016. They put migraine subjects into a dark room during a migraine attack, and they expose them to varying wavelengths of light. And they found that white, blue, amber, and red light all increase migraine headache intensity, whereas low intensity green light, and I say low intensity green light, could actually be soothing for people with a migraine attack, an ongoing attack. So the Avulux lens, well, there are multiple pathways through which the Avulux lens is working, and we can only hypothesize, but that's why we ran our own clinical trial. So we took the research, we read through it, that's why we developed the lens in the way that it is developed, and that is a 90% block at around 480 for that melanopsin release, and then up to 97% of that amber range. And when you take the 90 and the 97, what's in the middle of those two wavelengths is the green wavelength. So we essentially did a multi-band filter. And this multi-band filtration means we can cut 90% here, 97% there, and also taper off in the red zone while allowing through that green light. Most synthetically tinted lenses are either a very dark red, dark orange, a dark green, and so they're single band filters, meaning they're only cutting out light in specific areas of the visible spectrum, whereas Avulux is cutting out light in multiple areas where it matters the most. So this lens is unique in that sense, and allowing that green light through, we're allowing the specific wavelength that was shown in that 2016 study to be soothing. So it's a multi-band filter. The science is involved. It's precision filtration. It's years of that knowledge with the team that we have here who built Avulux glasses that allowed us to bring a technology like this to market. It's not a common lens product. You're really not going to find a lens like it available to consumers like this is today. So if you're finding a tinted lens...
Well, because we talked a little bit about it being preventative, being more preventatively to help sort of have any symptoms, but this is also great during a migraine attack to allow in that soothing green light based on this study too.
Yeah. So our recommendation is, if you're not wearing them during all trigger activities, screen time under harsh lighting and so on, to wear them at the earliest sign of a migraine attack. So you want to really cut it, nip it before it gets worse if possible. If you're already in a full-blown migraine attack, it's much more difficult to kind of walk it back. So it's still helpful in the sense, yes, and it's recommended to of course, wear it as soon as possible. But yes, there are green light therapies out there. I'm sure that people are aware of green light if they've been searching for migraine remedies that are natural. But what's nice about the glasses is you can essentially have these therapeutic lenses on as you go about your day rather than sitting in a room with the green light.
Makes it a lot easier for me, especially because I don't really have an hour to sit in a room with a green light with
Sure.
kids bother me.
Sure.
I got asked what are some of my favorite frames. So I'm actually wearing the Nala today in Champagne, their cat eye frame. And then my other favorite pair is the Vox frames, also in Champagne. I feel like Champagne works really well on blonde people.
Yeah.
But you were explaining to me earlier that the champagne color can actually change the color of how the lenses look online.
Yeah,
too.
We get the color question often, and the question is what color are Avulux lenses, or what comes up is the Avulux lens looks different than it did at my eye care provider's office. And the answer there is that the lenses are actually absorbing light as they pass through. So depending on the type of light that the lens is absorbing, it's going to look a little different. On Alicia there, they look a little more gray, orange, yellow, but I'll put on my glasses here and they look a little different than Alicia's do because I have the sunlight coming here from the side. So the reality is, as Avulux lenses, the filtration is not driven by the color itself. It's driven by the material that we embed into the resin of the lens, which means it is absorbing light as it passes through. And because it absorbs light, you'll see that the color of the lens changes a bit depending on the environment you're in. And yes, it also depends on the frame that you have them in. So the champagne frame, they might look slightly different than if you have it in the clear frame or any other colored frame.
Yeah, so fascinating. Thank you for explaining that for us.
Yeah, of course. Alicia, I think that's a question for you. Do you wear your Avulux all the time?
Do I wear my Avulux all the time? No, I wouldn't say that I wear it all the time. I do wear it all the time when I'm on the computer, so that's negotiable for me. I wear it during attack days, so that's where I'll kind of wear it cooking, especially if I'm working with anything loud. That increases my sound sensitivity. And I'll often wear them for grocery shopping still. So I love to wear them in places like Costco. When I travel, especially the airport is a huge driver to my overall trigger load. Definitely traveling and being on airplanes and everything like that fills my bucket very quickly. So I love to bring my Avulux with me when I go there. And then I've had a lot of trips to Las Vegas recently, just for work events. And so I've worn them a lot around there at my conferences that I go to. Just anywhere where I have a high amount of overall triggers that I just need to kind of lower that light sensitivity part. And it's really helped me, especially with a place that's so visually overwhelming like Las Vegas. And so I really don't travel without them these days.
Good point on that. I think something that pops up more commonly too is, well, I'm wearing the glasses and should they work at all times? And that's a difficult question because migraine disorder is a disorder where you have to manage symptoms and triggers. And some people, it's 60% of migraine attacks are triggered by light, and 90% of people with migraine disorder have light sensitivity. But it's not just about managing light, even though light is one of the key migraine attack triggers. So definitely wearing the glasses somewhere like Las Vegas. You also have to be mindful of smells. I know those casinos, people are smoking cigarettes indoors. Yeah. So you have to be very wary of your environment. It's a very environmentally sensitive disorder.
Yeah, and so we just have to focus on what we can control. And this is an easy enough treatment that I feel like I can invest in, and it'll last me for years and years and years. Whereas I might spend this money on, even just a medication that might only last me a month. And so for me, it was an important investment to have something that's easy, that doesn't really come with any side effects, and that I can use both preventatively and acutely. So it really is just one more thing to add to your toolbox that can be extremely effective. The other thing that's really nice about it is you have 60 days to trial it out, see if it's going to work for you. So it's really helpful if you do go through that adjustment period, kind of like I did, which took even just less than a week to get used to. But for a lot of my followers, they'll notice immediate relief when they put the lenses on. I feel
Yeah.
like if people can just try them, they can see the difference.
And that's the point. We followed the science, we ran the clinical trials, but we've also seen the success in our real world results. There are over 15,000 people wearing these glasses today, over 700 eye care providers recommending them to their patients. And if you buy them non-prescription without an AR coding on Avulux.com, you've got 60 days to try them. So everything's essentially proven out in the way that we had envisioned back then. We've been working on this on Avulux glasses for such a long time. We're so happy to see that they've helped as much as they have for you and for all of our customers to date. I don't see any other questions coming through there, but if
I do have one last for you, actually, from me, David.
Sure.
While I have you here, I would love to know. So you can really wear Avulux almost everywhere, but I have read that you're not supposed to wear them while driving. Can you explain why that is?
Sure. So for driving specifically, there are certain ISO standards, and ISO standards speak generally to what lenses are okay for, let's call it driving specifically. So it's a sunglass standard for the most part. And so there is a threshold of light that can be filtered for you to say that it is okay to wear a specific glass for driving. For Avulux specifically, we are cutting out 90% of light in that blue range and 97% in that amber range. And that 97% and 90% essentially put us above a threshold that says we cannot recommend them for driving. So it's a very specific technicality where we cannot recommend them for that reason, but they do pass the green, yellow, red traffic light test, but they don't pass the filtration test where we cannot go above that threshold. And it comes back to that question on, well, if Avulux is cutting out more light than a sunglass, why aren't they darker? Well, it's because it's selectively cutting it out. So we're kind of in this niche area where it's a unique lens that's not commonly, well, it doesn't really exist in the greater market for people looking for glasses like this. So yeah, we can't recommend them for driving.
It's really, really tailored and pinpointed just for us. So that's kind of nice for me to know as a migraine patient. I feel like, oh, this is why it works and this is the science behind it.
Yeah. Another question there. Avulux is more expensive and than other glasses. Why is that? Why is it worth it? So Avulux glasses, firstly, all the lenses that are sold globally are made in the US. We make them in small batch, and they have a novel patented technology, which is the Avulux technology that we've been using since 2017. We ran independent, double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trials. That's essentially the do-your-own-research part of proving out that the glasses work. So it was an independent clinical research organization that performed those studies for us. And not only that, we're selling them through eye care providers, or even on our website. You can use your flexible spending account if you're in the US, your health savings account. You can also pay for the glasses over time. Our providers have various ways to pay for the glasses if you have eye insurance even. And the glasses are a proven product that were created specifically for this niche of people. So people living with migraine light sensitivity specifically, even though we do have customers who buy the glasses today for other underlying causes of light sensitivity. But it's really those reasons. These glasses are a new technology. We're using optical technology that's not widely available. It's not something that's common in the optical industry. And so we really manufacture these in small batch here in the US. And as we grow, we can find different ways to get the glasses out there in different forms. But the reality is when you look at the glasses compared with medication or other migraine solutions, like Alicia was mentioning, they're really not expensive in that sense. So oftentimes people are comparing Avulux glasses to other glasses, but the real way to look at it is what other light sensitivity or migraine toolkit solutions do you have that work as well as these do, and that make it this easy to go about your day and also maintain that quality of life. So comparably, they're an easy entry point because you can wear them for years to come. And so you don't have to feel any anxiety around, am I going to waste the glasses as I wear them? Well, you can just wear them whenever you need them. So we've found...
It's my most used treatment. And so from that perspective, for how often I wear them versus how much I spent, it's very economical for me if I think of it that way versus just thinking of it as one expense that I'm only going to use one time. It's completely different when you start to see it over a period of years that you would have them.
Correct.
And the other part of that is research is really expensive. I don't think people realize that, but that's why we have so much research around medications is because you're making that up in the profits. But it's really hard to get quality research on natural treatments for migraine. And a lot of that is because of the cost. And so you guys are really one of the only brands that have invested in this type of research and technology and science behind it. And that's really why I went with Avulux and wanted to try this brand, is because it was so different from everything else that I'd seen out there. And I don't think people realize like how much cost and effort is devoted to just having this stuff be proven.
Yeah, there's a reason why it took us several years to arrive at a place where we could even start selling the glass, and that was because we wanted to make sure that we got it right. And the lens that you're buying today is the lens that was proven out in the research. You can't really say that about any other lens out there that's claiming to help migraine light sensitivity. There might be small, non-randomized, placebo-controlled trials out there where people reference and say, oh, our lens is clinically proven, but really the only lenses that exist today for migraine light sensitivity that have proven out to the highest scientific standard is Avulux lenses. So another question here, will you be making glasses for driving? Well, we've considered essentially different shades of the Avulux lens to either block more or less light. So I'm going to say maybe, and that's likely to come in the coming years. But today we only have one filtration curve, essentially, so one spectral transmission that you can buy. And in wearing prescription glasses, are these available for Avulux? Yes, you can buy Avulux lenses with a single vision or progressive prescription or as readers. And we have over 700 eye care providers globally where you can buy them. They exist in the UK, Canada, the US, Australia, and New Zealand. And you can look at our store locator on avulux.com to find a provider to help you. Highly recommend going to an Avulux authorized provider. They have different lens designs, they have different AR coatings that you can add, and they'll get you the best prescription for your vision correction needs with the Avulux filter. Another question here, can you buy this in India? So there are certain countries that we're not currently shipping to. It's not to say that we won't eventually be shipping them to India. So the current answer to that is no, not at this time. We're not shipping to India.
The prescription glasses, are these available for Avulux? So you can actually get them through your eye doctors, which you had mentioned earlier.
Correct. Buy them through an eye care provider or through avulux.com. Our suggestion is typically go through a provider. They know how to screen you. They have samples in office if they're on our store locator, so you could actually walk in and try on a pair of Avulux glasses before you decide to buy.
I think that's the best way to do it so that you can actually see the tint and how it works before you invest in putting your prescription into it. Sometimes I'll tell patients if they don't have a provider near them to just order the non-prescription ones and see how they like them, wear them around. I personally wear contacts, so I like to use mine like this. Do you guys have fit overs too? I believe you used to.
Yes,
okay.
we have our Protect Light fit over. So these are kind of a goggle. They're actually a safety goggle, so you can wear them in safety scenarios. And we have a standard fit over that go over the glasses. So these are all encompassing. These have the entire visor here is essentially the Avulux filtration technology. And so it covers on the top and on the sides. And many people actually wear this. Well, they like to wear them because they're the most encompassing pair that you can buy. But this is usually a second pair or even a primary pair depending on the person's line of work. So someone working in a wood shop, for example, might wear these.
Interesting. I had never seen those before, so thank you for sharing those.
They're the Protect Light glasses, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't see any other questions coming through, but Alicia, if you have any other good questions for me, I'll take it. If not, then I think that we can wrap up here.
No, you answered all my questions, especially that driving one. I was always kind of curious about. So thank you for answering that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy that you all joined us. Alicia, thank you for joining. This has been very helpful, I'm sure, for all the viewers and for the viewers to come. And we should get together again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.